Good evening. Hey guys, it's Johnny. I wanted to create this video. It looks really casual, but if I showed you like the setup for this, like all the lights I have around, like it really looks like I'm trying really hard. But the thing is that a lot of you, my friends and family that I talk to on a regular basis, they usually ask me about what's going on in politics because I'm constantly keeping up. And so I wanted to make a video, and I wanted to make a good semi-professional video using my iPhone to kind of give my analysis on what went down in the debates, the September 12th Democratic primary debates that just happened on ABC. And so I just wanted to give this, rather than having all these one-on-ones that I have with family and friends through social media, and obviously outside when I see people in person, just kind of a one-stop place for everyone to look, maybe comment, interact with me, or interact with me in private like you normally do anyways, but just give you an idea of what I thought of the debates, the big takeaways, kind of a mix of analysis and opinion. I go back and forth constantly between the two. I can, if asked, give my complete analysis without giving any of my own opinion on it. But I also like to give my opinion on things just because I think it adds a special element to it. Yeah, let me get into it right now. So this was the Democratic candidates debate, and while there were 10 on stage, there were a few notable people missing that are running national campaigns and going out talking to the people and stuff. And in general, this debate format, I don't think does a good job to the candidates or a good service to the candidates in letting them kind of air out their full platforms. But what it does do is drive, media cycles, news cycles, allowing those soundbite moments to happen and be replayed over and again on CNN, Fox, MSNBC, ABC, whatever networks you're tuning into in the mainstream. But I guess people like it in general for the visual that it gives. We want to know, in terms of our presidential candidates, who has the look, who has the ideas, who can give and take, spar politically on stage with their own peers. So I guess that's kind of part of the reason why we tune in. I think that the way that the DNC handled this particular debate was kind of BS, and excuse my language. If you guys know me personally, I do use salty language from time to time. My mom did teach me better, but my dad didn't, so I kind of take that from him. But yeah, it was BS in the sense that I think what the criteria was a certain number of donors to their individual donors to their campaigns, and then on top of that, the candidates having to qualify, and I think two or three out of like the major polls. Now, my take on that is that having the individual donors is a good threshold. It really tells you how many people are interested in a particular candidate's campaign without making the dollar amount the kind of rubric by which we're measuring the strength of a campaign. But the polling, that's really arbitrary, and that's where the DNC can get corrupt, and where there have been challenges to the establishment within the Democratic Party. That's personally, I like to see those kinds of challenges to the Democratic Party. I don't like the fact that they do it based on polling, because they'll say that one poll, I'm just throwing it out, I forget which polls exactly, but they might say today that the Quinnipiac poll is the valid poll by which we are measuring which candidate is doing well nationally, and then tomorrow they might say, oh well, the Quinnipiac poll is no longer the one that we're measuring candidates by. So I really don't like that measurement. I wish it would have taken out. But what that ended up doing was it took out two candidates, which I really think belong on the stage, And this is kind of controversial. When I talk to people, they either tell me I'm batshit crazy, which is totally fine. I will own my craziness. But then I talk to some people that are completely 100% with me in that I think that Tulsi Gabbard and Marianne Williamson should have been on the debate stage. Now, I'm not saying this as an endorsement of their campaigns. I think it's still too early to endorse any candidate. But I do think, being that those two candidates, I'm not sure about Marianne Williamson. I know Tulsi Gabbard did meet the donor threshold. But those two candidates, they are bringing about a conversation to the Democratic Party that did not exist tonight in the debate, but did exist in previous debates in which both of them were engaged in. And so it was unfortunate. And I'll come back around to that, where I think that having Tulsi Gabbard or Marianne Williamson on stage to kind of drive the framing of certain issues would have been very beneficial to all of the candidates on stage. And again, this comes back to my own philosophy in terms of, where are we in the democratic process? First of all, we have to look at the issue as a whole. Is this a democratic process? Are we really engaging all of the American people, all of the voters, all voters who consider themselves Democrat? I still don't think we're there. So for me to say that it's democratic is like, yeah, we have the freedom to get involved in it, but as a society, we're not there. People are just not engaged. For a variety of reasons, there are so many barriers to engagement in the democratic process. A lot of it has to do with economics. A lot of it has to do with race. A lot of it has to do with, I'd say economics is the main thing, but social mobility, economic mobility, really keep certain people out of the democratic process. And so, where was I going with that? Again, in terms of the overall democratic process, if this were a democratic process, I don't think we're at the point where we need to be endorsing candidates. We're only September of 2019. We need to be figuring out how to frame the issues and what exactly is the Democratic Party going to offer to the American people in 2020. So that's really what I'm more concerned about, rather than being like, oh, I like this person, I like that person. Yes, I do have certain favorites among the field, but it always has to do with the way that they're framing the debates, the issues in these debates. So let's start off with winners and losers of the debate, and I hate using those terms because it's like, it's kind of arbitrary. But I think 5 people did pretty good in this debate, and those 5 I think were, and I'll call them the winners. I think Elizabeth Warren did very well. I think Bernie Sanders did very well. What I noticed about Sanders was that he actually had less time to speak than I saw in previous debates, but when he was given the chance to speak, or when he, you see him like on stage like, hey, what about me? When he took the time to speak, he really he drove home his talking points in a very concise and effective kind of way. I think Beto O'Rourke. Now, those of you who know me personally, I'm not a fan of establishment candidates. O'Rourke being one of them for me. I'm not a big fan of him and his candidacy, but I think he did a good job. I think that there were opportunities for him that he really pounced on, and rather than looking and sounding corny and rehearsed like he normally does, he sounded way more relaxed, way more relaxed, and I think he did a generally good job. I think Julian Castro did a phenomenal job, and I think what he's trying to do is kind of take that, I guess, surge into the position that Harris and Biden occupy in terms of a media favorite, being that he is establishment friendly, but he really took it to the front runner right now, Biden. And then I think Andrew Yang, tonight was a good night for him. People could go back and forth about this. They'll say, oh, well, he didn't look presidential, or he didn't look super strong, or in contrast to others, he kind of looks just very, he looks so different than the rest of the field. He brings a levity to the stage, but I think it was so good for him. One, he gets his points across, and then, you know, the whole, it sounds kind of gimmicky with like, hey, we're going to do this kind of UBI, universal basic income, with, I think, how many, he said 10 families in the United States for 12 months a year. We're going to give you, the campaign will give you $1,000. For a candidate like him, where he wants to bring about a conversation to UBI and what that actually is, yeah, that's a win for him. Like, what else does he have to do? I mean, a candidate like him, yeah, if you talk to him, he's going to say he wants to take the nomination. He wants to win that when the time comes. But I think candidacies like that, where its focus is on one central issue, I think it is, for him, the real win is a fundamental change in conversation and getting people to talk about things the way that he wants them to talk about it. And I think he did exactly that with his performance tonight. People that didn't do so well, in my opinion, I think Biden, I don't think he did that great. I mean, I don't know if his poll numbers will go down. I don't know if poll numbers will go down or up that much for anyone, really. There wasn't like a nail in the coffin for Biden, but and I hate to say this because I don't want to sound ageist or anything, but in a way he looked flustered throughout the debate. He seemed to kind of talk, not in circles, but kind of just talk all over the place. Didn't seem super focused. And I'll talk about specific points because I took notes. I don't think he looked that good. And also when Julian Castro, when he first went after Biden, I thought it looked really bad for Castro. But then when everyone else was jumping to Biden's defense, and then Castro hit back at the rest of them, I was like, actually, this is really good for Castro, and it looks bad for Biden. So I kind of like went back and forth on that one spot in the debate. Kamala Harris, you know, she went all in on this, like, prosecuting the case against Donald Trump. That's what her candidacy is going to be. And I don't think the American people really care for that. I don't think it was a good debate performance. I don't think it will increase her profile. I think she might just stay where she's at, or she might be eclipsed by another establishment favorite. Klobuchar was another one that I don't think did too well. And it's not that she did poorly, it's just that in this stage of the game, she's got to really do something. And I just don't think that there was much that she brought to the conversation. I mean, she was like, oh, like, I'm going to be the candidate in the middle. Like, if you don't want any extreme, I'm the candidate for you. And I just don't think that's a message. I think what people want to hear a message about is, what are we going to do about healthcare in America? What are we going to do about climate change? And that's what people are looking for, like stuff around the actual issues. If you look back at 2016, Donald Trump framed the entire election on immigration. He took one issue, and I think he's dead wrong on his approach in it and his opinions on it. But he took that one issue. He got everyone in America talking about it the way that he wanted to talk about it, and that's how he won. Someone like Klobuchar who's saying, look, just going to like come in the middle somehow. I'm going to reach the majority of voters, and that's how we're going to change things. I don't think that's a winning strategy, and I don't think it's effective, and I don't think it's going to help her at all. I think that Buttigieg did well. I would say he was kind of even Steven throughout. There were some points that I really liked when he was talking, and some that I didn't care for much. And the same thing with Cory Booker. I thought he was really effective at certain points, and then not so much in others.